Hey, what's up everybody? Hope you're having a good day. We have another collaboration tutorial between Alessandro and myself, but before I get started on that, I wanted to mention that Alessandro and I also teamed up to launch the brand new Corona Texture Pack 1 Contemporary Edition. So if you're a Corona render fan, make sure to check that out now in our store. All right, on to the tutorial. So we're going to be talking about looping dynamic simulations and how we're going to do that. Now we're going to be using a mograph cache tag, so we do need a cloner to make that work. We can't have a mograph cache tag on a null. So we have all these spheres in a null, but I put that in a cloner and set the instance mode to grid and have the count at 111. So it's not actually cloning anything, but this null is housed in a cloner. And then we have a dynamics tag on here. And what we want to do is not have this dynamic simulation start with them up in the air, but once they're resolved. So we'll hit play until they resolve, and then we're going to click set initial state. And if we do that, even if we go back to frame 0, it's going to start at this resting spot right here. All right, so now that we have that, we can animate this helix. We want to make sure that we have these at the resting spot before we animated it. All right, I'm actually going to take this helix that's extruded and I'm going to make a copy and we'll save that just as a backup in case we need it. We'll call this static, just in case sometimes we might need to reset that initial state. And this one's going to be animated, so we're going to animate the rotation. And we'll go to coordinates, and I'm going to zero out all these keyframes right now, but we're just going to animate the rotation on B. So we'll make a keyframe at frame 0, then we'll go to frame 75, and on rotation B, we'll make it 360 degrees, so it's spinning. And we're going to right click, go to animation show track, and we'll make these linear by clicking the F curves. And then we're going to click the linear button right here. And then by highlighting all these keyframes, we want to have this looping. And we can do that quickly by going to functions, track after, repeat after. And these black line representations, meaning that it's going to loop these two keyframes over and over and over. All right, so now we're gonna have a great little looping helix rotation. And the dynamic simulation is gonna look great as well. But at the end, it's not gonna loop properly. There's gonna be a bit of a glitch there. So one hack is to use a mograph cache tag. So we're going to right click on that cloner and go to mograph tags and mograph cache. And we're going to go to our build and we'll click bake. And once that's baked, if we go to the end frame, you can see that that frame and the first frame are quite a bit different. Now, these are fairly different, so I'm hoping this blend will work, but we'll give it a shot here. So mograph playback. Under here, we have a looping option. If we click loop, we have loop blending. And if we set that to 50%, you can see that the dynamics are basically forcing themselves to resolve at the same frame on the end as the beginning. And it's kind of resolving in an awkward way, way too early. But if we go to, say, frame 139 and we click loop blending keyframe at 0% and then go to the end and go to, say, 30%, and then we kind of scrub through there, you'll see that it sort of starts to reshuffle right about there, and that's going to give you a perfect loop. So depending on your scene, it could work really well. This one looks like it's going to do pretty good here. You can see that the clones are kind of reorganizing themselves and shuffling on that last 10 or 15 frames, and then it's going to be a perfect loop. So it looks a little bit awkward. So you can kind of tweak the settings a little bit based on the keyframes and where they are, and also the loop blending percentage. So if it's not perfect, you can always go back to your static mesh and you can kind of shuffle these spheres around a little bit and then hit reset that initial spot and then do this again and see if it works a little bit better. If the dynamic simulation is really far off, sometimes it looks a bit unnatural to do that loop point, but this is pretty close and it's definitely something you can sell. So again, this is the mograph tag. If you go to playback, that loop and loop blending mode, it's a really great way to play around with dynamics and make them actually loop. Hope you all found that useful in your projects. Thanks for checking out the Pixel Lab. We'll talk to you next time. Ciao.